The following program is a special presentation of the Big Ten Network, produced in association with the University of Wisconsin.
Wisconsin was like...
Wisconsin, I feel like, needs to put money into, once we're here, keeping the students here, because we have to become comfortable. I mean, and it's not just about...
Park Avenue.
Clearly, they ain't in Madison.
Nah,
all right, so I wanna start this off and focus on a topic that's talked about a lot on college campuses, especially when it comes to admission, and that's diversity. And I think a lot of people, when they think of the word diversity, they think of racially diverse, a diverse campus. What really makes a campus diverse? Is it just the racial factor? Because honestly, in my opinion, I think it really has a lot to do with geographically diverse. Yeah. There are so many in-state students in the school, and I think that's great. Yeah. But it's a lot of in-state students and East Coast and West Coast students. Yeah. And I feel like, do all campuses have this problem? Like, what makes a campus really diverse? I
don't know. Like, from my opinion, Wisconsin, there's a lot of alumni in Los Angeles from Wisconsin, but they don't come. They go to a lot of private schools. They don't come to a lot of LA unified schools. So I think that's the problem. But I agree with you on diversity, that it does include more than racially, but it's also geographically, even academically. Like, not every student who comes here should have a 4.0. You know, I think that some of the smartest people on earth may have a 2.5. So it has to be different interests, different everything.
Yeah, I definitely believe in taking that holistic approach to admissions, because all students will not make that grade. But that doesn't mean that those students shouldn't have the opportunity to go to college, because everybody's circumstances and situations are different. I think that here at our university, being a student who did work in admissions, I feel that our university needs to expand their recruitment efforts, because my freshman year, I was the only person from the state of Tennessee to come to this university. They don't recruit in my area, and I went to one of the top high schools in Memphis, and out of the 102 years of my school, I am still the only student from my high school that has gone to UW-Madison. When they say my freshman was like 1 out of every 690-something people has a degree from this university in the United States, and I'm the only one from my high school. So
I also don't think there's as much of an emphasis as there should be on political diversity, ideological diversity, diversity of interests, personal interests. I mean, do you play the violin? Do you play basketball? I mean, these are things that make individuals distinct. And we tend to look at just the numbers, GPA and grade point average, more than anything else. It's important, but it's not the end-all be-all.
It's so unrealistic, though, to think that we're going to be able to make a class that's so diverse that not only can they play like every single instrument, but even there might be those kind of people, but we're not encountering them.
Okay, so let's move it on. As you all know, we had the first African-American president with Barack Obama. So what impact do you think that Barack Obama will have on diversity on college campuses? Personally, I think that this is a great thing for, people of color who don't necessarily see people who look like them on college campuses, especially with the Harvard degree, who was the editor of the Harvard Law Review. So I think this is great. It's going to encourage people who think that the only possibility is to be either a professional athlete or a musician. This is going to open the window for them. This is a perfect example, a perfect paradigm, I think.
I agree. I think it's going to take a little while to maybe see that change, because I think this is an influence that's really going to stick with younger children, grade school, middle school. But I really do. I do, and I think I'm excited. I'm excited to see that change.
I don't think his presidency will necessarily make campuses more diverse, but I think they'll inspire leaders in higher education, especially leaders of color, as well as people from traditionally underrepresented backgrounds to take up leadership roles in universities and colleges, because I mean, here you have the first black president who's a leader of the free world. I mean, there cannot be anything more powerful than that.
And what unusual route can you take, rather than being a mixed race person who is from Hawaii, Indonesia? If he can do it, then there's the world is open. Like,
think the word is just hope. He just inspires hope in a lot of people, and that's really crucial in this time.
Yeah, I wonder how many, and not only in the younger group of individual, like Americans who are going back to school, are going to school for the first time, but I wonder how it impacts individuals who are currently out of school or deciding, you know, he always put it off, I'm going to go back and I'm going to go back.
My stepdad.
My aunt actually just enrolled back into college to go get her RN degree, and I wonder how many more Americans have been inspired, especially people of color, to continue their education, to be like, well, you know, I can do this. I can do this.
How will that change the campus, though? Do you think that the higher ups will actually see, like, okay, Barack Obama is the president, so we have to go out and recruit this and this and this? I don't think that change doesn't necessarily happen that quick. I don't think that the people, the higher ups, are necessarily that focused on this. You know, they're focused on getting alumni, money, alumni resources. I don't think it's a top priority.
Yeah, I think it's mostly going to be seated in what sorts of backgrounds are going to be applying to colleges. I don't think, like you said, I don't think it's going to start up here, it's going to start down here.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people have the mindset that just because he was elected, that erases everything, that our country is so enlightened now, that race is, you know, we're blind to race. You know, like, whoo,
This program is a production of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. If you have comments about this broadcast, please email us at programming@uc.wisc.edu.
I already said before, I thought that was unrealistic.
Saying what? Well, that I'm poor?
I know.
That's why it's hard.
So being a student here at UW-Madison, I've always found myself asking the question, do you feel that the university is diverse?
No. I think this university is extremely homogenous. I actually have a really big issue with it. It bothers me. It bothers me that I feel like most of my day I'm surrounded by people that are exactly like me.
Yes, I agree with you on that point. The university is split up into two universities, I feel like. There's two universities here at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. There is the predominant, I'll call it, predominantly white. And then there's the other ones, the minority university. There's two sections of the university. That's just the way I feel about it.
And I attend the minority university, just so you know.
Thanks for clarifying that.
I think on some issues, though, it does better. So we're looking at it just in terms of its racial composition and ethnicity. I think when it comes to first-generation students, the university actually does pretty well. I think their last year's admissions stats were the greatest for first-generation students in terms of number admitted. Socioeconomically, comparatively to other institutions, I think we do okay. We could do better, but I think we do have to look at diversity holistically.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, but I will take great I completely disagree in the university saying, well, we admit all of these students, but when it comes time to graduation, who's getting out of here? Who cares if you brought 100 people in and you're graduating 4 or 5? You know, that's a problem for me.
Once you get admitted into college, if you're getting scholarships or whatnot, or even if you're not, it's your responsibility from that point out to get yourself through.
But everybody's not starting at the same point, though. No, but everybody's not starting at the same point. My high school education might be completely different from your high school education. For example, when I came to college, I didn't really know how to do research in the library. All I knew was research in the computer. So I had a project last semester, as a matter of fact. I had to go to the Historical Society. I didn't know how to do that. I had to figure it out all out by myself.
Well, we have to look at the whole state. This is a state school, okay? Most of the people who come to this university are from this state, and I would argue should be from this state. Taxpayer money. Look at the state. Look at the state of Wisconsin.
But I mean, if we're going to talk about diversity, if Wisconsin is composed of what I learned in my sociology class, 7% people of color. I mean, if you expect to have a diverse institution, come on, that got to be a joke.
It's a joke.
I think that's the tension, right? It's a public school, but diversity is integral to the quality of the education. Okay, so moving on. So we've established that UW-Madison could do better in this respect. What are some of the things that it could be doing to increase diversity on campus?
I'm telling you, being a student who's a part of a smaller scholarship program, not one of People or Posse, those are what I would consider some of the student of color pipeline programs here for the university, the flagship. I feel that the university really needs to focus their recruitment in states where they don't have a lot of alumni. Me being from Tennessee, once again, I was the only person to come from my entire state.
It's all athletes that come from down south for the most part.
And
That's what I see.
going off of that though, like they can afford to take away recruiting purposes or recruiting efforts, excuse me, to places like Minnesota. I'm from Minnesota, I'm from Minneapolis, and we had recruiters come to my private high school. We already all know what Madison is. Half my grade applied to Madison.
Exactly.
We don't need recruiters
It's
there.
this privatization that the university is using. One, I can understand partly because of funding. You know, you're dealing with a different socioeconomic status with those kids, but I feel like, especially here in Milwaukee, students that don't come through the People program, there are a ton of schools in Milwaukee. Just in this state alone, if we're going to speak about the state and the recruitment from, since, you know, Meredith believes that the majority of students should come from the state, I really feel that they need to step their efforts up in those areas where students aren't being recognized.
I agree, but it's more of a thing of, I agree with you on that, but how do you do it? Like, you already have pipeline programs, like you said, like Posse, and then People specifically for the Milwaukee, Racine, and even Madison area. So it's all about how do you get them to come here, and you need that preparation before you become to college.
Well, like on that point, I think admissions is only half the equation. We do need to focus on the campus climate here at the university, right? If students back in their hometowns hear that attending UW-Madison was a positive experience for their friends, they're much more likely to apply. And then if they get an offer admission,
I also think this campus kind of lacks with its giving tours and letting, you know, prospective students who are already interested, they already have this interest, you know, this should be easy, whatever. But people, when you know, I took tours as a high school student, they treated it as if, you know, we don't care if you come here or not. We have plenty of applicants.
My biggest problem I remember was in high school. The only thing, I'm from California, so there's a UC system and a Cal State system. Historically, UC system you go to if you have better grades. Cal State system you go to if your grades aren't up to par.
Next Saturday, the word Crocs is officially banned.
No. So, being here at the university, as Mike stated earlier, you know, it seems like there's kind of two universities. There's the student of color university, and then there's, you know, Wisconsin. It's that Wisconsin University. And so, do you feel that there's a self-segregation going on between students here at the university?
Totally. I think definitely. There's a huge segregation, and I don't know, you know, if there's fingers to be pointed, who should be pointed at, who should be to blame for that. But I mean, organizations are competitive with other organizations, and you know, some minority groups and non-minority groups, and there's so much segregation, I feel like. And I don't even think it's just so, this is gonna sound kind of ironic, but black and white. You know, I don't think it's that stark. I think there are a lot of different groups that are
true,
but
they feel they're exclusive.
I think it is reserved more for racial and ethnic self-segregation. I mean, I think that's the most visible, obviously, form of it. But it seems to me that it's for obvious reasons, right? If you feel as though you are in some sort of minority population on campus, right? You know, even if it's not racially, that you're going to be hanging around socially people who are like you, you know? I mean, exactly.
But do you think that that's a problem? Because when you go into the real world, you're not going to be able to take your buddies with you.
It is, but how do you change that? You know,
you step outside of your comfort zone. I feel like minority students coming here automatically step out of their comfort zone because they are the minority. So wouldn't the challenge be brought back by people who aren't minority to also step outside their comfort zone?
The thing is, I know personally, I honestly haven't even encountered the opportunity to really expand.
Okay, now that...
I'm serious. I'm thinking about classes. I'm thinking about being in a sorority in which are...
It's because in saying that, you have self-selected your environment. You've selected the environment that you chose to be placed in, and you chose to enclose yourself into that environment to say, this is the group I want to interact with, and this is where I'm going to stay. It doesn't mean that we have 900 clubs. Easily, you can tell your friends, I'm finna go check this out real quick, I'll be back.
I'm in tons of different clubs, but that doesn't mean necessarily that they're diverse clubs, and it's not something that, like, okay, because this club is of a certain type, that it's not diverse. The only thing that I can think of on campus that directly segregates the two is the sorority system.
But
and that's always really bothered me. They're under two different governing bodies.
Yeah, they're under two different governing bodies because they were founded on two different historical bases. Okay, so I'm gonna throw out a real simple question. On this campus, are things getting better?
I think nominally, they're slowly improving, and I emphasize that word. but I think we still have a long ways to go. It's really tough. I mean, how do you foster more diversity if you feel as though if you don't have a lot of it, to begin with?
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah.
And how do you force people to go out of their comfort zones, like you were saying? I mean, how do you mandate
There's
these
classes.
things?
There's classes.
Class is fine, but like you were saying, I mean, there are people in your class, so it doesn't mean you're going to go sit down next and be buddy-buddy with them.
Let me finish. There's different classes here. There's a class here called Intercultural Dialogues. Intercultural Dialogues, it involves every different part of people on campus. I know that sounds weird, but any type of segment that there is on campus, any type of group, and involves them in the class, and literally you interculturally dialogue with each other.
Semester.
I just thought
I facilitated it last semester.
But if you like for someone who like for me, okay, for my majors and what I want to do, I'm under a very strict class schedule. I have to take these courses in this sequence to graduate, and I feel like I don't have that kind of room to
incorporate
that.
I agree with you. And how can people say that? I think that it's more important to travel abroad and learn a second language when you can't travel to the classroom and sit next to me and actually dialogue with me and learn my language.
Exactly.
I might talk different than you.
And I really do feel like I would choose to differ when individuals say step outside of your comfort zone, because I feel like once you get so far out there, you just retreat back and you don't want to try it again. But by expanding your comfort zone and going out and dabbling a little at a time, I mean, if it's just going to the International Student Services when they have different desserts, trying different things will put you in those environments. Not to say that you have to take a class or you have to join another group, but say hello. I sit on the bus and somebody sit next to me and move. And I put my bag right there. I think to myself.
It's just something you really have to make a conscious effort for, though. And I think it's something that we need to do individually more so than place the blame on the university.
But I think if the university's sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
If the university is going to be successful in doing this, it also has to convince people outside the university that it's important to its mission, right?
Exactly.
That includes state leaders, right? A lot of people don't attend because they don't have the financial aid. Tuition's too high. We need to make universities as accessible as possible, and that's encouraging people in the legislature to think about diversity in new ways.
That's a major part. I definitely agree with you on that. But it can also be a lot smaller than that. It can also be as far as just if somebody of color walks by you, say hi. Make them feel acknowledged.
And
Make them feel like they're part of the
But you're making the
university.
assumption that they're saying that they wouldn't say, or that they would say hi, excuse me, if it was a person of the same race. I say hi to people without any type of lens.
This program is a production of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. If you have comments about this broadcast, please email us at programming@uc.wisc.edu.
I like it. You look good in pink.
Thank you.
So talking about diversity, obviously something that we have to integrate into the discussion is affirmative action. We can talk about how effective affirmative action is on campus. We can talk about affirmative action as a general rule. But I just have to say that fundamentally, I really kind of have a problem with the basis of it. And beyond the fact that affirmative action effectively hurts me, I understand the need for affirmative action and I understand the need for the benefits. But I think that rather than being based on race, or minority status, it should be based on income. And I think that's a pretty important and fundamental difference between how it's been previously defined.
Wait a minute, you really think, or you think?
I think it should be based on income.
And it hurts you how? As a woman or as a white woman?
Affirmative action hurts me because if I, for example, I was applying for University of Wisconsin-Madison, and my application goes in and I have all the exact same qualifications of somebody else that was a minority, I would get rejected.
No, that's not how affirmative action works.
That's not how.
Affirmative action works on the basis that if there are two people that are comparably the same, African American and white, and they have exactly the same qualifications, then that's the only reason that they might pick somebody over you.
That's what I just said.
It doesn't mean you automatically lose that position because
But
people automatically assume that you had the higher GPA than that person. though. That's the problem. That's
Oh no, I'm saying if it's exactly comparable, we're the exact same, then I'm the one that gets
But if we talk about diversity on campus, don't we want to have this diversity on campus? I'm sure that if you apply to this university, you apply to more than this one. You probably have a better chance of getting into any other one than, let's say, an African-American student who didn't have the funds. Not to assume that you have a lot of money, but let's say the African-American student didn't have the funds to apply to a whole bunch of different
schools.
schools.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, why don't we just base it solely on income?
And
what if you look at
why I
those
feel
two
like it should
things
be looking at that.
minus race? You look at they're identical.
For example,
but this person, they or their family makes significantly less. Pick them instead.
One of my best friends from high school was extremely affluent, and she was African American, and ended up getting these mass tuition and scholarships. just because she was African American.
But see, wait a minute.
That's a different question.
That's the assumption. That's what bothers me about students here, specifically at this university, is because they assume that because you are a person of color, you only got here based on your skin tone.
Oh, I definitely don't think that.
And I mean, that's just the way I took it. And I feel like I'm sitting in the same classes with you. I'm reading the same books that you're reading. I'm taking the same tests that you're taking. So it means, and me, I made a 32 on my ACT. I had a 3.8 when I graduated. I made it here solely based on my academia.
Good for you. And I would never assume that somebody made it here because of that.
And I feel that it's an insult for you to say, for people to assume that, to make that assumption that.
Okay, everybody, it is time for our famous final words. So let's start off with the term politically correct.
Ooh, the phrase I think of is walking on eggshells. Whatever's politically correct, I think, seems to turn over and over and over and over and over, and it's...
I think politically correct means say what you want to say, because that's your political right.
True.
But be PC doing it.
Yes.
I think it's a way to tiptoe around trying to make other people comfortable.
Right.
When in reality, I think you should just go ahead and just say it. But you should be cautious and be able to own what you've said.
You should be respectful, but I don't think that you're gonna go past anywhere unless you say what's on your heart and what's on your mind.
Exactly.
If you feel like you have, like, I appreciate your honesty. That's why, you know, I definitely appreciate your honesty, because a lot of people feel the same exact way, but they don't ever say anything about it. And that's the problem I have, is when you sit there and you harbor all these negative feelings, then you should say something about it. You should express your thought. And then that's why we have free speech. That's why we can talk about it.
Well, and I hope I was politically correct in doing so.
It doesn't matter. Say what you want to say.
Exactly.
Okay, what about Prop 8?
I personally am a huge fan of Proposition 8. I'm sorry, the opposite. I'm a huge proponent. No, I'm saying this completely wrong.
Yeah, you're right.
No, I'm an opponent of it. Proposition 8 is the...
It's worded weird.
Oh, it's the ban.
Yeah, exactly. It integrates into the Constitution in California, Florida, and Arizona in this past election, and basically said that marriage can only be between a man and a woman. And it amended the Constitution, which is a huge, huge deal. And I have a serious issue with that. I completely think that gays should have the exact same rights as us, and that it shouldn't be changed based on...
Absolutely agree. I think it's societal regression on some level, right? I mean, you're taking a step forward, moving two back. I mean, the good thing is that the fight is out there in the open. States have started to, institute marriage equality. Massachusetts, Connecticut is falling in line. California initially, and then of course you have the ban. I think we're going to see this play out over the next decade. I think it's inevitable, but I do think at the end of the day, eventually, we will experience
and how ironic, I mean, we don't have to get into the reasons, but how ironic that in such a progressive and liberal-leaning election that we managed to get this kind of a proposition.
The preceding program was produced by the University of Wisconsin in association with the Big Ten Network.